Do you want your very own buddy to commit war crimes with? Take me home today! The Kirsche Tues plush is on sale now from November 18th through December 2nd. The link is both on screen and in the video description below. Kirsche is made of soft materials to keep you cozy in any foxhole, underground bunker, or even just your warm, comfy bed. Standard correction practices may need to be utilized to get your Kirsche to accurately follow instructions. This product has not yet been evaluated by the FDA, FDIC, or the IRS. This product has not yet been proven to cure depression. If you're having any side effects, including nausea, diarrhea, headache, fatigue, loss of sight, loss of limbs, weaponry suddenly going missing, upset stomach, waking up with an IV draining your blood for science experiments, blood clot, stroke, heart attack, small caches of food, and drugs appearing inside your walls, call your doctor immediately, but they probably can't help you. It's too late. Bring home your new best friend today and experience the thrill of living with Kirsche. Let's see here. I have an asmon. I don't want to call it a clip because it's like 18 minutes, but I was sent this by like 4 different people and it was in stream suggestions. So apparently people really fucking want me to watch this, whatever it is. I have kept myself pure and unknowing. I have absolutely no idea what this is about. I see he's got some beepus in the background here. He's got some beepus. The bep. I don't like the schoolgirl baby looking ones. I don't know what that means. That's a sick sweater. It reminds me of those like old blankets that you would get at like farmers markets that were super fucking warm. The silly fox who sit you straight. What? What does he mean by this?
Hi guys, today
Hi.
I wanted to talk to you all about what I believe to be probably the biggest cultural shift that we have ever seen.
Why is his audio so fucking bad in this video? I've never heard his audio sound this fucking scuffed. Is he streaming from the same Duncan's bathroom that I was in? Like, what is this? Nice pause. I only have the best pauses.
If you're anywhere around my age, except for maybe September 11th, I think that this cultural shift has been observed now for about 2 to 3 years, and when it really was codified as like, yeah, this is happening, it's when Trump won the US election. And now, in the aftermath of that, I think that you can very clearly see people are emboldened by that, they're galvanized by it, and people are much more willing to share their viewpoints on things.
People are fucking sick of how extreme the left has gotten. People who are disingenuous and also the indoctrinated progressives will tell you that it's the people on the right who have gotten more, like, indoctrinated and radicalized. It's the left. Like, it is observably, objectively, factually the left who has ran so fucking far to the left that they just cannot connect with normal people anymore. And they don't understand how a lot of their policies are just naturally rejected by normal people. Normal people who don't even understand how a lot of the progressivism is rooted in, like, Marxist-Leninist thinking, they still reject it. And it's just like, you can't reason with these people anymore, unfortunately.
Things that have been much more conservative, much more traditional than what I think a lot of people would, expect or maybe have you believe. And so I wanted to talk today about why that actually happened, why I think it happened, and where the culture is going to be going from this perspective, right? From this direction.
All right, let's
and
fucking lay it out. I'm going to lean back for this.
In order to explain where it's going to go is to explain where it came from. So the reason why I think a lot of this happened, and we've had a shift, and before I do that, I'll also explain where I think this shift is coming from. I think that we are shifting away from a more censorship heavy, a more, censored speech heavy, compelled speech heavy.
After Trump won the election, there were a ton of people posting the F word on Twitter, and I wasn't exactly sure why. I was like, you could say the F word on Twitter prior to Trump winning the election, but if we can get to a point where platforms like YouTube and Twitch and even Twitter to an extent, like, Twitter's less censorious than it was before, but if we can get to a point where, like, I can say whatever the fuck I want, minus, like, obviously calls to action for violence and shit like that, right? Like, actually objectionable, illegal shit. If I can say things without being censored, I think that would be a good place to start. And I sincerely hope that Asmon is right in that we are going into a less censorious direction. I hope that will continue. And I hope we can go back to a point where it's like, if you don't like the speech someone uses, if you don't like the content they make, if you don't like the personality someone has, instead of trying to campaign and ruin their life, you just don't interact with them. That's like the normal thing to do. It's like, oh, I don't like that this person uses language that I think is reprehensible. So instead of trying to ruin them financially and socially, I'm just going to ignore their existence. Right? Like, I would love to go back to that world.
And I think that you're seeing a lot of backlash against, what were considered to be like, protected types of thinking and protected groups of people. You're seeing a tremendous amount of backlash against it. And I think this is mainly evidenced on Twitter, but you can see this on YouTube comments. You can see this in comment sections of any game.
You can see this in YouTube comments if YouTube doesn't send them to the fucking Shadow Realm. Because as I learned with the upper echelon video, YouTube just fucking torches some comments. It's weird.
Or like any video. I think that in general, you're just seeing a massive backlash against what people believe to be authoritarian levels of compelled thought and compelled speech. And
the UK definitely has it worse than we do. The UK has way worse censorship laws than we do, but it is absolutely authoritarian, the way that things have been recently.
Surprise, where did compelled thought and compelled speech come from? Where was the genesis of that recently? Definitely from COVID. And I think collectively the government and the social media websites, the way that they handled people that were dissenters during COVID, the way that they handled that caused a schism in the trust of the people into the government, into these companies, into anything. And I don't think that schism, I don't think that disconnect is really going to be mended.
I agree. There's a lot of trust that was broken as well. Not just like people who, for some reason, genuinely believed that the government would be there to help them. Those people have now realized, hey, the government is actually not here to fucking help. Welcome aboard, new friends. And then there's also the people who realize that the medical industrial complex is also corrupt as fuck. Like, you can't look at the two-tiered practices of like politicians and celebrities being allowed to have parties, going out in public, not wearing masks, not social distancing, while everybody else was subject to these really draconian, stay the fuck home, we're going to censor you, you will wear the mask, you won't get to see grandma while she's dying, you're going to lose your job if you don't take the jab. Like, the amount of just insane government overreach that happened during COVID woke up so many people that I don't think it otherwise would have.
Time soon. I think it's probably going to take 10 to 20 years for that trust to be rebuilt,
and it's going to take 10 to 20 years, not just for the trust to rebuild, but to sort of reverse the tide, right? And this is exactly what Bezmenov said as well back in the 80s, that once you realize there's a problem and you start pushing back against the propaganda, you have to take like 20 years or so before things will actually start changing, right? You have to bring up a new generation on American values to counter the Marxist values that have been embedded in the generations already.
People would be hearing, oh, well, it's going to take 2 years, or sorry, not 2 years, excuse me, that's actually what it did take, 2 weeks to stop the spread, and just wear a mask, this will solve it, just take your vaccine, this will solve it. And I think that the messaging for COVID in general was very authoritarian in many cases, and I think that also there were countries besides the United States that were even more authoritarian with
hug a Chinese person. I think that it's fine to be like, hey, maybe you should wear a mask. Hey, maybe you should stay home for like 2 weeks because we don't know how bad this pandemic might be, right? I think giving these as suggestions to sort of try and figure out how to move through it is perfectly fine. Mandating that everyone must wear masks, mandating that everyone must get vaccines, mandating the weird social distancing thing where like everyone was putting up like plastic screens and wearing like hazmat suits, that went way too fucking far.
They handled COVID. And because of that, guess what happened? You had a lot of people who were like, yeah, this is fucking bullshit. We don't believe this, and we want to be able to think for ourselves.
Yeah.
And when they did that on social media, they got in trouble. Now, you can think that that's a good thing, or you can think it's a bad thing. I'm not really going to try to convince you one way or another, but I think that really the big shift for that was COVID is what really started building up that resentment. And then that resentment finally boiled over, and people were able to express it when I believe Elon Musk bought Twitter.
And I also think that it's a point where a lot of people, no pun intended, went mask off in how they wanted those that disagreed with them not only, like, punished socially, but punished financially and having, like, a permanent black mark on them for dissenting against, like, getting the COVID vaccines or wearing masks. And these people, once it came out that, like, oh, COVID actually was from a lab. COVID actually wasn't as bad as we thought it was, actually. Here's all these bad side effects from the vaccines happening. And they came out with all these articles where it's like, oh, now is the time for unity and forgiveness. And it's like, no, man. I'm not going to forget how you wished me dead. I'm not going to forgive the fact that you wanted me to miss out on family members in their final moments. I'm not going to forget that you wanted me destitute, out of a job, out of actual health care. I'm not going to forget the absolute vile vitriol that was being spewed from these people. They do not deserve forgiveness. And that might come across as harsh, but it's like, if you're going to spend years censoring and wishing death upon those that disagree with you, you don't deserve that forgiveness. You deserve the same treatment in turn.
Because before Elon Musk bought Twitter, there was almost no avenue on social media that you could actually speak your mind and give, like, a honest opinion on things, besides maybe 4chan, right, on Poll. And so besides that, you couldn't really say what you think. You can't say it on Reddit. You can't say it on YouTube. YouTube is probably the most, the most liberal with that. You can.
And they put those like fucking COVID-19 informational things on people's videos, and like recently, I think it was Destiny who like lied about Tim Pool, saying that like Tim Pool was pushing like some sort of radical rhetoric in response to like COVID, and Tim was just like, dude. I said, if you want the vaccine, talk to your doctor, right? Like, your doctor's gonna know best. I'm a YouTube guy. I'm not a doctor. Talk to your doctor and see if the vaccine is right for you. That's not radical. That's not, like, insane propaganda. That's, like, a normal fucking take. And I said the same thing. It's just like, I'm an anime woman on the internet. I'm not going to take the vaccine. I'm not going to take it not because I'm anti-vax, but because I'm anti-specifically the COVID vaccine. The way the government was pushing it, the way they were forcing it on everyone made me very uncomfortable. That should raise red flags in everyone's mind when the government is like, we are going to force you by threat of losing your job and financial stability, by censoring you online if you don't have a traditional job, ruining your income via ad revenue if you don't have a traditional job. That should send red flags to everyone. A government should not have the power to force medical treatment, that's the word I was looking for in my brain, to force medical treatment on people. That's not what the government is there for. And it's like, it's absolutely crazy that we have in the past things we can look back on, like the Tuskegee experiment, and people were still sucking government cock saying that everyone must take this.
Almost as much as you want, but YouTube does still have a lot of restrictions, more so than Twitter, for example. You can't say what you want on Facebook, you can't say what you want on old Twitter, and basically all of these social media platforms that people used were used as basically tools to compel speech and to suppress people's thoughts. And I think that if you just take a step back and you think about this from an abstract, I think that you need to come to the realization that people don't like being told what to think, they don't like being told what to say, and they don't like being told that, and they don't want to be told what to do, right? I mean,
and one step further from that, the government is not there to help you. If someone from the government positions themselves in a I'm from the government and I'm here to help kind of position, that should not make you feel relief. That should make you feel terrified.
At the end of the day, and so anybody who's trying to take an authoritarian stance, trying to tell you what to do, you're going to automatically get a negative response from that, at least here in the United States. And so that's happened, I think, as a result of COVID. Elon Musk buys Twitter, and now all of the people who didn't exist are making up for lost time. Like, I'm not saying this is a good thing, but holy shit, there is a lot of racism on Twitter now. Oh my god. And do you want to know why there's a lot of racism on Twitter? I'll tell you why. It's because there's a lot of racist people. That's the reason anybody who can speak English all over the world, except for maybe a couple of countries, a few countries, probably more like it, can make a Twitter account and express exactly what they think. And so, big surprise, you're going to have people that live...
Aren't there plenty of people who don't speak English on Twitter? I don't know what he meant by that one.
In totally different cultures, expressing viewpoints that are not congruent with liberal Western values. And this has been a very, very upsetting reality for many people that use Twitter, but in my opinion, I find it to be a very sobering fact. I think it's extremely important to know what people are actually thinking, rather than having a manicured, curated, and censored view of the world that...
And I completely agree with this, right? Even if people are expressing, like, incredibly racist things, if you look at how many people in many different places are expressing these incredibly racist things, instead of wanting to retreat into a hug box and being like, well, all of these people are just pieces of shit, sometimes you have to be like, well, why are all of these people from the US, from the UK, from Russia, from Japan, from Brazil, from Morocco, why are all of these people saying the exact same thing? That, like, maybe it makes you activate some almonds, right? Not necessarily that they're correct, right? I'm not necessarily saying that, but it's like, how could all of these people from all of these different places possibly come to the same conclusion, right? Like, it makes you think instead of just shutting your brain off and shutting it out.
Immediately shatters whenever you introduce it to actual reality, which is what I think happened with the 2024 election. I think that people imagined this was going to happen because all of the celebrities said this was going to happen, all of mainstream media said this was going to happen, and then the day comes and it's actually something totally different. And I think that what this has really happened is that people are pushing back against basically there is a false god of authoritarianism that a lot of people online have prescribed to. They have been worshiping this false god. And I think that they are doing that because their other previous gods were determined to be false. There's always the quote of God is dead from Nietzsche, but that's only half of the quote.
Well, I was going to say, these people also like to buy into the authoritarianism because a lot of them not only get like a power trip from tattletaling on people who are doing things that they perceive as bad, right? They get a power trip from doing that, and the more times this happens, the more times they can exercise their power to shut down people that disagree with them, the more they feel emboldened to continue their tirade, and that, like, they will be in a position of absolute power once their party is in a ruling position, right? They feel like they will be part of the bourgeoisie, the ruling class. Damn, Asmon reads. He's not illiterate.
The full quote is, God is dead and we have killed him. I think that the society that's totally killed God, there's no sense of religion in culture anymore. And I think that's by the way, that's very upsetting for many people. Religion is a very reassuring thing for many people. I am not a religion enjoyer, personally. I think that you guys probably know that. I'm much more of an enlightened, euphoric atheist. But at the end of the day,
I am an agnostic. I don't like the absolutism of atheism. So I line myself more with being agnostic rather than atheist. And I feel like a lot of people who probably label themselves atheist also are more agnostic than actually atheist.
You've been a bad girl.
But atheist is just, like, I guess more well known, so it's just easier to say. But I agree with him completely. I grew up Catholic. I plan on having a traditional Catholic wedding just to carry on family tradition. But I am not in my current state a practicing Catholic. And I feel like having a foundation to build off of morally, like to raise your children in a not like super strict religious household like my grandparents had, but to sort of imbue like the morality that religion starts you off with is a good way to become a decent person. I don't think you have to be religious to be a decent person. And I think I'd like to think of myself as at least a halfway decent person, right? Like I try my best to not be a bad person. So like people like Asmongold and I don't think we're bad people. We're not religious. We grew up with a religious foundation and we built off of that and we came to our own conclusions and we decided, hey, this might not be for me, but I understand that it has a necessary place in society.
I can recognize that it does have an ordering I guess, like, function in a lot of people's lives. And so when you're taking that away from people and they don't have access to what would be a way to order the universe and a way to see how things are, they're going to invent their own way to order things. And I think that the way that they did that was they replaced religion with political dogma. And I think this has happened in a lot of cases. And really, people...
We've talked about many times on my channel how, like, progressivism has basically become a cult. And you can see it when they start taking each other down, right? People like J.K. Rowling. She is a dyed-in-the-wool progressive woman. There were memes for years that you became gay because J.K. Rowling wrote you that way, right? Like, she has entirely very far-left opinions. She deviates when she says that biological sex is real, that women's rights matter, that trans women are not real women, is what J.K. Rowling says. And for that one opinion alone, she has become persona non grata. She has become an evil witch that must be burned at the stake and has no place in any sort of leftist politics. You even saw with, I'm never going to remember names, that one teacher guy that got fired for teaching critical thinking. One of his exercises was one of his students was talking about how J.K. Rowling was transphobic. And he was like, okay, well, tell me why J.K. Rowling is transphobic. Explain it to me. And when the student went through the different things that J.K. Rowling said, the student came ultimately to the conclusion that J.K. Rowling is not transphobic. That they believed in a narrative that had been crafted because people wanted J.K. Rowling to be othered, to be thrown out of the party, because she did not adhere to the full cult dogma anymore.
That attach their meaning and, like, their identity and, like, their feelings onto these different movements.
That's the exact reason Blue Sky is going down right now. I thought Blue Sky was going down because all the leftists joined it and then started reporting each other for child pornography. Isn't it weird that when a whole bunch of progressives get in one place, the chance of CP being posted exponentially increases? Isn't that kind of fucking weird? Does that really activate your almonds?
That for many of them, they're looking for something that religion or some form of, like, existential reassurance would give them. And I think that the movements, whether it's a political movement, whether it's a social movement, whether it's a social cause, I think that those movements actually, for a lot of people now, are filling the place that religion previously had.
Oh, absolutely. And Buck Angel is another good example of this. Buck Angel is probably one of the oldest transgender people I can think of. And Buck Angel actively campaigns for women's rights, for not giving hormone therapy or gender transitions to children because it can be harmful. Buck Angel has had negative repercussions from being on testosterone for so long. It almost killed him because his uterus was necrophying inside of him. And I know some people in chat are going to be like, Kirsche, why are you using male pronouns? It's a biological woman. Because people with actual dysphoria, I have no problem. I have no problem with people who are actual dysphorics using their preferred pronoun if it is a real one, right? Like he, she, real pronouns, as it were. I'm not going to go down the fucking z, zer, zer, zim, fee, fi, fo, fum rabbit hole. But Buck Angel, I think, is a good person regardless, right? Like they have done many good things. And simply because they're against child transition and they speak about women's rights, Buck Angel, as a transgender person, much like Blair White, has been othered. They have been thrown out of the cult. They have received death threats. They have been attacked by people online who want the narrative to purvey that you can just identify as whatever you want, whenever you want. It's a spectrum. You don't need a diagnosis. You don't need all of this stuff. Gender transitioning children is the correct thing to do, etc., etc. Right? Apostates, yeah. Apostates are dangerous to these people. And especially if you are dealing with one of the people who are co-opting trans identity, someone who's a fetishist, someone who's using it to push political ideology, it does them a massive disservice to not only differentiate between the fetishists and ideologues and the actual dysphorics, but they also want to keep muddying the water so that they can keep pushing either ideology or getting away with participating in their fetish in public.
I think that if you don't think that's true, just look at how they fucking defend them. I swear to God, there's people, you'd get less pushback from blasphemy.
Oh, shit. Because Jennings' mother forced them to take HRT before puberty. They didn't have enough growth to convert into a vagina and needed more invasive surgeries. Yes, also true. And it is going to be wild, right? I've talked about Jennings many times on my channel because it is an absolute tragic fucking story that we have the most documentation on because of the TV show. And it's going to be a very sobering moment once enough people notice Jennings' TV show and actually start saying, hey, this was vile child abuse of the highest order, and all of us just watched it. We all just watched it happen, and no one did anything because everyone thought it was either the correct thing to do, or if they spoke out against it, they were immediately censored and deplatformed. Like, when that bubble hits, it is going to be a very sobering time, I feel like. And then the James Younger case just came to an unfortunate conclusion as well. I've been talking about the Younger case since 2019 when it first came out. Prior to James Younger, and I can't remember this girl's name, unfortunately, but there was a father in Canada who also did a round of podcasts. He had a teenage daughter who was being socially transitioned by the school and her mother, and he lost his parental rights. And when I started talking about that on stream in 2019, this is when I was still a Terra streamer, when I started talking about that, people were like, oh no, that'll never happen in the United States. Like, we have the Constitution, we have freedom here, we have laws, we're nothing like Canada. And I was like, you can't say that. If this happened in the UK and this happened in Canada, it's going to come here. Men need to start caring more about what's happening here because the transgender issue isn't just affecting women. It's going to come for your parental rights. And I was written off as if I was being crazy.
In a lot of churches. And so, yes, people get very, very, very attached to these things because they built their entire identity off of them. And I think also this is especially true with young people. And with young people, it's that they've had unironic arrested development.
You're a little
from COVID.
crazy.
And I think this
little
is true,
crazy.
not just for, it's like, oh, the kids are retarded. No. I think this has happened for a lot of people, including young adults. And so you have people that spend, let's say the ages of, like 15 to 18 locked down in COVID. Well, big fucking surprise. Whenever they turn 18, they're not going to know how to act. And
they're not going to know how to function.
Still be acting like 15-year-olds. And so you have people that have been developmentally, basically arrested, and they've taken 3 years of like social development and socialization and just pretty much outsourced it to a social media website that's fed them a worldview that's completely distorted. It doesn't represent anything in real life. And now they go into real life, and the dissonance between what they believe the world should be and what the world is gets bigger and bigger, and I think it makes people angry.
Which is why whenever you see like a super fucking shit take on Twitter, like, more than like 65-70% chance it's gonna be someone in the like 15 to 19 age range. And it's just like, man, fucking shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. I should not have to hear your opinions, man.
Angrier and angrier. And I think that that's really where a lot of the hostility is coming from. It's the refutation of those types of people that have used political dogma and social, like socio-political issues, and they've replaced religion with these things. It is a pushback against those people. And the reason...
And I think this is also another reason why it's so important to push back on, like, the DEI and the bridge crap, right? Because you've seen, with all these people who were kept home and lost all that socialization, right, as Asmon's talking about, where they were basically, like, brainwashed by social media into believing a worldview that isn't a real worldview. When you think about how DEI and bridge are capturing the corporate sphere, they've already captured education. Trump is going to try and get rid of that when he's in office. They're capturing entertainment, right? All the video games and movies coming out with all this schlock that no one actually wants. These teenagers who have been socialized in this incorrect, non-existent worldview online are going to watch these movies. They're going to watch these video games or play these video games. And they're going to be like, yeah, this is normal. This is what I was taught on social media while I was inside during COVID. And they're going to perpetuate the creation of the modern audience, because when they have kids, they're going to pass down that worldview, and those kids are going to be even more inundated with it. Hopefully not, but again, this is what like Bridge and DEI people want. They want that to be passed down. They want the next generation to know nothing about the before times, which is again why so many remakes of prior IPs are being done and completely destroyed and gutted.
Why I think this pushback is happening is very simple. It's because people just don't want to hear what they're saying, and they don't agree with it. It's actually just that simple.
Only stupid kids will accept this crap. If you've been indoctrinated, if you don't know any better, if this is what your life was, right? Like Asmon is saying, these kids, they got fed this worldview online, and they go out and they don't know how to function in real life anymore. You can't exactly call that stupid, right? Because it's not that they're not retarded, right? Like they're not actually low intelligence. They've just been brainwashed.
So for a long time, you were not able to express your disagreements. You were not able to tell anybody that, like, yeah, I don't actually think this is true. This isn't really what's happening. And because you would get banned. But that all changed when Elon Musk bought Twitter. Because when Elon Musk bought Twitter, everybody who had an opinion was able to say what that opinion was.
It's the sad reality of schools today. We need all of the, like, cultist ideologues out of schools. Anyone adhering to, like, the progressive cult mindset, the Marxist ideology, needs to be removed from teaching. That is, like, where you have to start. Like, I know Trump is planning on starting in government and education. I don't know how you get rid of all of these people from teaching positions, but that needs to happen.
For better or for worse. And I think that we've seen a lot of both of those. And so now what we've had is that we have tons of people that feel, uniquely emboldened in a way that they hadn't really in probably 10 years on social media, given the level of censorship and control. And now people are going and saying what they really think. And I think that they're doing so in a manner that is making up for lost time. And another big component for this is that I think that there has been what I would really kind of refer to as emotional blackmail that's been going on for a very, very long time.
Absolutely.
Where you can't have certain opinions about certain topics because it can be perceived as being mean, or you can be seen as a bad person.
And you can see this with me even, right? Like the reasons that I got kicked out of Offkai, a lot of people say banned. I wasn't banned. I was able to show up as like a guest if I wanted to pay money and go. I was just blacklisted from appearing on panels, which is a problem for a VTuber because that's part of how you make professional connections. So when I was blacklisted, the reasons that they gave me was because I made staff feel unsafe. How did I make them feel unsafe? My pronouns on Discord are Burger Queen. I made a joke about Sam Hyde entering a women's weightlifting competition. I made jokes, and very surface level jokes. These aren't even like grossly offensive jokes. So like the fact that something even that surface level can get you reneged from professional connections is absolutely a problem. It's absolutely a problem. And it's like, there are some people who would like tell lies because that's all they can do. And they're just like, oh, well, Kirsche wanted to do something political at Offkai, so it's natural that she got cut off. And it's like, no, I wasn't going to do anything political because Offkai is a fucking VTuber convention. Why would I do anything political at a VTuber convention? That makes no fucking sense, right? Like that is not what I was going to be on an 18 plus panel for fucking voice acting, dude. Like that has nothing to do with politics. And then Offkai had fucking identity politics panels. They had identity politics for like LGBTQ plus in VTubing. They had like black identity in VTubing. And it's like, if you're going to have identity politics at your convention, it makes it even more obvious that you kicked me out for my opinions and your staff was just making shit up about feeling unsafe. It's just absolutely insane that is the course of action that happened. I don't care if you want to have your little identity politics booths. You can do that. That is your right. Right? And it's just like, it's obviously their right to kick me out as well, but it's a very unfair reason to do so when they are playing politics themselves. Don't pretend it has anything to do with politics. It's more that you just don't like me. So you can't support Offkai. You wanted to, but you can't. I would not, unless things grossly changed with their management. Because it's like the VTuber convention should be for all VTubers, right? It's just like any VTuber should be able to go there. I don't care what they believe in. I don't care, what Fuda Mana, I don't know how to pronounce her name. She's like a communist VTuber. She should be able to go if she wanted to. Fucking Melody, who does like chatterbait stuff, she should be able to go, right? That's like any of these people with any of their beliefs should be able to go. They only allow the politics they like, and they gave you the boot because they don't like your politics, even when you were not going to talk about politics at all. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I had to ban like a handful of people from my streams because I was just like, hey, FaZe Connect is sponsoring a lot of Offkai. This isn't their problem. This isn't Pippa's problem. Don't bring this up to any of the FaZe people. Don't bring this up to Pippa. Do not involve them in what's going on. That's not what they're going there for. Please don't involve them. So I actually had to ban like a handful of people because they couldn't hold in their autism. They mentioned it like to Pippa or some of the FaZe posts on Twitter. I'm just like, man, you had one job. Don't bring it up to them, man. More than just political opinions. That's what Offkai will never understand. You originally heard rumors that I was a far-right grifter and you're left-leaning, so you decided to start watching my streams only to be met with something different than what was being told to you. Yeah, again, if the people who antied me online told the truth about me, they wouldn't really have anything to talk about. And it's annoying sometimes that basically anywhere you find talking about me is only misconstruing of what actually happened or outright lies. Because it's like I have a very insular community. And I try my best to wrangle you guys as well. Like when I raid other streamers, I'm like, hey, this isn't a political streamer. Don't bring up anything political in their streams. I will ban you if you do this. And I mean, maybe there will be a point where like I grow so large that I can't do that anymore, right? I don't ascribe to the streamers are inherently responsible for their audience mentality, but I do what I can to minimize the bad actors in my community. Because I don't want that to happen. I don't want other streamers to be inundated with political nonsense if they're just cute girl doing cute girl thing, right? I don't want them to have to deal with that. Don't shit on someone else's rug, as it were. Kirsche doesn't get political on other channel streams unless she's given the okay by the host. Absolutely. Absolutely. Or like, even if I'm not given like an okay, if they bring up something political first, I see that as like a, okay, well, you're fine with me mentioning it, I guess. I'll dip like a little pinky toe in and see how it goes. Not gonna lie, you're a little disappointed and you found out Kier wasn't a far-right Nazi extremist, but she's still pretty entertaining. Thank you. You might want my mom. You could find her in prison somewhere, probably. If the host gets political and says something stupid, you'll respond, yeah. And don't boycott. Show up in a Kirsche sweatshirt. Jesus Christ. Philly and hey, Foxwoman, say something. I love that bit, dude. I think it's so fucking funny. It's like she treats me like a little piñata. She's like, hey, political clown, say something political. Give me the content. I think that's fucking hilarious, dude. Important to respect the space. Not every place is a striptease bar. Yeah, exactly. Abso-fucking-lutely. You're surprised how well me and Fillion get along, considering how allergic to serious topics she is. Well, I mean, I don't only talk about serious topics. Sometimes I just make brain-dead noises, you know? I just woke up from a long nap. Hello, we're watching Asmongold have some very rational takes. I love to see it.
I think that there's been a level of fatigue that is caused for people, and it's like eventually, like, you know, for example, somebody thinking that they don't want illegal immigrants in their country, this doesn't necessarily mean that they're like a racist or a Nazi. And
True.
So because of that and the emotional escalation and the emotional blackmail that people use in order to try to force people into having these certain types of worldviews, the optics of these arguments oftentimes become more important than the arguments themselves. It's kind of like what I've said before, is that the strongest argument isn't an argument. Many people do not operate based off of logic or reasoning. They operate based off of emotion and feeling. And
if someone's only response to like a statement that you make is like, you're racist, you're bigot, you're transphobic, you're homophobic, they have no recourse. They have nothing to say against you. That's just like half the time when I have like a spicy take that I post on Twitter, people will come out of the woodwork and be like, "This you?" and post like a response that I made when Kirsche was like in a little bit of hot water, and I like defended her. I was just like, we should focus on like if there was any sort of impropriety during her time in Idol, nobody should care if she said the N-word while she was singing a rap song. Context matters. And so like everyone posts that at me as like some sort of gotcha that I'm a racist, and it's just like, well, it doesn't make me racist if I think it's okay that Kirsche said the N-word while singing a rap song. It's literally in the song. It doesn't matter if she said it in that context. It shouldn't matter. I was like, are you trying to tell me you never sang along with any sort of like 50 Cent or whatever back in the day when it was on the radio? You shut your fucking whore mouth. N-word is legal and based. I was like, if anyone's got an N-word pass, my lily white ass does. I literally got a black man to write fucking my NYK dog on my PlayStation 2 what is it called? Fucking save card slot thing. I got the street nickname, okay? If you don't want white people to say it when singing along, stop putting it in the songs. Jesus Christ. Memory card, thank you. My brain is melting down, chat. I'm not in the best, I'm kind of sick right now. You got the spicy cat get to go with it. Absolutely. Absolutely. Of course, Kirsche forgets the word memory. Ironic, isn't it?
Big surprise, that's been what's taken over a lot of things. And also, this is a very important component. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. It's not like this is totally going away. I think that we're just replacing one form of this behavior with another. And that's very worrisome to me. And I think that really what's going to continue to happen is you're going to have more people pushing back against, established social norms as much as possible, and making a push more towards traditionalism, more towards conservatism. And I think that this is also happening again because of that lack of meaning and culture. You don't have the same shared culture that something like a religion provides. Mm-hmm. And because of that, you're having tons of people.
We are a very fragmented culture. Again, something Bezmenov warned about in the 80s. We were already fragmented back then, and it's only gotten worse.
That don't know what to do with their life. They don't know who they are. They don't know what their identity is, because the previous things and previous lives that have given them that identity are now being taken away or have been taken away. I think probably the best example of that is with jobs. So when somebody has their job replaced by AI or replaced with automation, and they're not able to get a new one or something like that, and they are disconnected from the value of their work, I think that, again, there's something that's existential that's taken away from that person, because now they no longer can take pride and take pleasure in the idea that they have done good work and they are contributing to their community, or they are doing something that's positive. And I
think that there's also a problem nowadays, though, where, like, there was a thread on this on Twitter where there was like a woman complaining about how she went to McDonald's or something, and they left out part of her order, and she went back and they were just incredibly rude to her over it. And she was just like, I'm tired of like all this shitty service. I'm tired of this always going this way. And she's right. And a majority of the comments were just like, well, if we got paid better wages, we would do better work. And it's like, no, I don't think you would, actually. I think if you were paid a better wage, you would have the same shitty attitude and you would campaign for an even higher wage. And it's just like the mentality of, even if I'm getting paid not a like exorbitant amount right now, I should still do good work and eventually get paid more. I don't think that mindset exists anymore. I think people just put in not even the bare minimum, like they just don't care. There's no pride in work anymore, regardless of the pay level that you're at. And it's like when I worked at GameStop for like $7.25 an hour, I still put in effort. I was still like a decent worker. I wasn't getting paid a lot, right? Like that's minimum fucking wage. But I still made sure to do my job well. When I started streaming, I wasn't making any money at all, right? Like when I first got monetized, I was making like maybe $30-$40 a month. Like it took multiple months to get a payout. I still acted Like, I was, like, I don't know if I want to say good, but, like, I still acted the same way that I do now. Maybe a little bit less political, because I was terrified of talking about things and getting canceled. But it's just, like, I still wanted to be entertaining. I still wanted to read chat. I still wanted to try and, like, talk while playing games. I wanted to do a good job. I wanted to do a good job. When I got my insurance job, I was getting paid above minimum wage, but it wasn't like a crazy, crazy amount. And I put in work. I did the best job that I could. I ended up getting promotions. I ended up getting cross-training, right? And it's just like, people don't have that mentality. They're just like, you give me more money or I'm not going to do a good job. And I don't understand that. I don't understand that. And maybe it's partially because we've moved away from a job economy where your company cares about you to a degree, right? Like, companies don't care about you. But back in the day, you could do a good job, you could get promoted, you would be in the same job for your entire fucking life, right? You'd start for a low wage and you'd eventually climb up. And that just doesn't happen as much anymore. Companies are just like, well, we're just going to replace you. You're expendable. We're going to get rid of you. There's no, like, for life jobs. Unless you're incredibly lucky and you have, like, a friend's business or something, right? It's just not as widespread as it used to be. And so, like, the carelessness of the companies toward people has maybe made people jaded and be even more careless towards the company. Seeing this while working hits hard, yeah. And it's just like, I don't know how you would go about fixing this. I don't know how you make corporations see people as less expendable as they used to back like 50, 60 years ago. And I don't know how you make people do a better job even if they're not currently getting a wage that they would like, right? It's kind of like a trade offer. Fix immigration policy. Well, I mean, yeah, that too. God, I cannot wait to see what happens with that. I agree. The families can be deported together.
Of course, obviously, why is that? Number one, it's because a lot of these jobs are, computer jobs, and so it's not really as directly evident in the same way that, like, you can do something that's more physical. That's number one. And then also number two is they're not really being paid very well. So you have people that have shitty jobs. They're not being paid very well. And guess what? They're looking for some form of meaning in life. And
bring back small businesses. The back-to-back of all of the fucking riots and COVID decimated small businesses. Like, so many mom and pop shops just died because of, like, the back-to-back issues with those two things.
But you tell them that worldview is not going to last. Things are going to keep getting better. And anybody that sells that person a solution is going to have a lot of fucking buyers. And I think that's very clearly what's happened. So what I expect to see happen now is that you're going to see probably a lot of people who have been pushing back against the culture of, like, cancel culture and people getting, banned for having wrong opinions on things. Obviously, I
got really distracted because his hands are really clean. I don't know why, but I was, like, expecting him to have, like, scraggly nails, but his nails are very clean and, like, taken care of. I had to mention that, chat. I'm sorry.
Still happens sometimes. I don't know. Maybe I've got an example of that one way or another. But I think that, of course, sometimes that will still happen, but it has been much less common. And you're even seeing things like, I think that another benchmark for this is that, you can look back at the Hogwarts Legacy,
absolutely,
the debacle with that and how angry everybody was with J.K. Rowling. And now that there's a new Harry Potter project, the studio that's doing it has even said, like, it's her freedom.
And I don't even know if, like, regular streamers know about this. And I don't have the sources on hand. I know I talked about it on stream when it happened in great detail. But in the VTuber sphere, there were people who were lying about, like, friends and family members committing suicide during Hogwarts Legends bullshit. They were trying to use that as justification to attack the streamers who played the game. And there was a couple people in particular that, like, internet autism detectives went down, these people's timelines and shit, and they found out who they were talking about, and they were just like, this person either doesn't exist or this person is lying, like, depending on the person I'm talking, because there was a couple. Like, this person's lying about like, nobody killed themselves. That wasn't real. But they have to lie in order to use the emotional manipulation to get people on their side.
Speech, she can think what she wants. And so I think that is a tremendous divergence from what previously was the case, where you were not able to have certain opinions about certain topics like that. J.K. Rowling had controversial opinions about trans people. Oh. Whether you agree with them or not, you have to acknowledge that they were controversial with a lot of people. Yep. And because of
I already talked about that.
People didn't want Harry Potter existing anymore, right? And I think that after that kind of reaches its logical conclusion, where it's no longer seen as a reasonable response, and now it's just like an overcorrection that is fueled primarily by anger and frustration, then you're really going to see people kind of lose interest with that type of movement. And I think that's exactly what's happened. I think that a lot of people were just tired of having their opinions dictated to.
What happened with Silvervale and Pikami was disgusting. I actually sent, like, a message to Silver, because I felt like I needed to, like, thank her, I guess. Because I am an anxiety-ridden woman. So standing up for myself has always been really fucking difficult. And so between, like, watching how she handled herself with the Hogwarts thing, and watching how, like, Asmongold handles people who try to do, like, bad faith things to him, both of these people have been integral in how I've been able to try standing up for myself and try being more like, yeah, if you're going to be an asshole, why would I care about you, right? Like, both of these people have been hugely inspirational to me.
They're tired of not being able to think things that they believe are just a priori knowledge. Like, this is just, it is known to be the case. Obviously, there's the difference between men and women, etc. And this big split has happened. And now there aren't the same censorship apparatuses that maintain the previous power structure. And so you're seeing tons of people now speaking out against it, and really nothing happening because of it, for better or for worse, again. And so I think you're going to continue seeing that happen. You're going to continue seeing people pushing back against, like, these mainstream narratives. And I think that the pushback will eventually become just as oppressive as the narrative originally was. Because that's the way the pendulum always swings. Things always keep going until there's too much, and they always stop when there's too little, right? That's it. And so, you know, people love to radicalize, people love to become extreme, and I think the internet has provided a perfect place for people to radicalize themselves. Mm-hmm. And I think it's happened because of the...
_en. Thank you. Thank you for the 13-month resub. My favorite Feemsh princess. Thank you.
Hey, we're react-andying today, because I feel like shit. I'm in a rough state, lady. History radicalized many. True and real. True and real. Your favorite fish trucker. Yeah, cranking her hog.
Lack of meaning with religion. I think it's happened because of the lack of meaning with
love a good react stream.
Gainful employment. I think it's happened with the lack of meaning culturally. There's no sense of, like, shared culture in the U.S., at least not as much as whenever I was a kid, I would say. Agreed. And I think you put all these things together and you have an existential crisis that an individual has, and they're looking for anybody to replace that. And where a lot of these, like, socio-political movements come from, that's why you're seeing a lot of people get back more into religion now. I think that religion is making a pretty big comeback, and I think the reason for that is because people are looking for that antidote.
Is it making a comeback? I mean, I guess maybe I just don't notice it in like the circles that I frequent, but I haven't really noticed too much of a resurgence of, like, dyed-in-the-wool religious kind of people. You guys think it is? I mean, maybe. Just like our savior, Christianity has its revivals, maybe. I don't think that would be a bad thing. I just wouldn't want to deal with religious censorship, right? Like, I wouldn't want, as much as, like, the progressives want to tell you what to do now, I wouldn't want the same thing to happen from super religious people, right? Not to say that it would, but, like, you have to think of the possibility of things happening in the future. And so it's like, it's just something I keep in mind, maybe. What are these Asmon vids? I have the 240p mic. I don't know. Usually his videos have better audio. I don't know what the fuck is wrong with this. I fucking love that corn dog, dude. I love that corn dog. Religion can provide structure and certainty. I mean, maybe. It's very subtle. I mean, maybe it's subtle, and that's why I haven't noticed. We're already under religious censorship. I don't know about that. I don't know about all that. We need to contain Matt Walsh when the time comes. Yeah, true. True and real.
Of modern existence. They're looking for, like, the way that they can order the world that makes sense, because the way that people are talking about it on the internet really doesn't. And so I wanted to talk about this because I think it's a very interesting thing, and I think it's going to shift the way that all media is portrayed. Now, obviously, things like this are a very big boat. It takes a long time to turn, but you can already see that happening with people that had previously, like, problematic opinions, etc., just kind of get ignored in a way that I don't think would have happened 3 or 4 years ago. And if you want my personal opinion on the whole thing, I think that's a good thing. I feel like the amount of, as I said before, emotional blackmail and censorship and compelled speech that was on the internet for, I'd say, the last, maybe, I'd say, like, from 2017 or 18 to, like, 2022, somewhere around there.
I would actually even go back further than that. I think it started becoming noticeable around, like, 2013, 2014 is when the censorship started really ramping up and people were, like, getting the beginning of, like, the cancel culture nonsense. Yeah, maybe even as far back as 2012. My memory ain't so great, but definitely at least 2013, 2014.
I think that it did radicalize a lot of people. I wouldn't really consider myself radicalized, but I would consider myself very aware. And now I am extremely...
Heil Asmongold, our Hitlerite particle leader.
Skeptical of any type of censorship. I'm very skeptical of any type of, compelled thought or compelled speech. And I'm in general the kind of guy that believes that the best, reaction to, bad speech is good speech that counters it. And, in the free marketplace of ideas, the best ideas.
Free marketplace of ideas. And if somebody has, like, a bad or a wrong opinion, sunlight is the best disinfectant. If you let someone rattle on with horrible or dangerous ideas, people will call them out. Like, look at how much backlash Hassan is getting for some of the shit that he's been saying. If he hadn't been allowed to say those things out loud and openly, not the, like, more radical, like, oh, this terrorist is literally, like, Luffy the pirate. I mean, maybe that one. That would make sense to push back against. I can't remember the more radical things he said off the top of my head because I don't watch him. But it's like, when you say things like this and people can clip it and share it around, you can have all these people being like, wow, what a fucking idiot. Here's why this is an insane thing to say. If he wasn't allowed to say that out loud, it would probably become more insular. His audience would probably become, like, more in tune with, like, yeah, these terrorists are just, like, happy-go-lucky pirates, right? Luffy, yeah. I take that back. Saying that statement out loud makes a lot of fucking sense. That's not like that's not makes a lot of sense in that it's true, but makes a lot of sense in, like, the sunlight disinfectant kind of way, chat. I'm also not the best with words. I kind of have brain damage, but I hope you understand what I mean. Alt media and unique views are funny. Also said that guy was the modern day Anne Frank. What the fuck?
Actually went out. So I wanted to make this video and talk about it because I've never really had the opportunity to, like, really formulate what I really believe with this kind of stuff. And hopefully you guys can kind of see how this shift has happened and how you've observed it yourself. And I'd be curious in the comments, other kind of barometers or, like, temperature checks you've seen and where you've kind of seen, oh, wow, yeah, things
Will you take my temperature, Asmongold?
really are different now. And I feel like we're going to continue seeing them become more and more different than what they were. And in general, I can see that becoming a bad thing, but also, especially with people being able to think for themselves and no compelled speech, etc.
Absolutely.
And I think this is a very good thing. So overall, I do think it was all pretty much started with Elon Musk buying Twitter, because it was the first break in the giant wall of thought policing and compelled thought on the internet.
As much as I don't like a lot of things that Elon has done with Twitter, I still think it's a good thing that he bought it. Simply because things have become less censorious. You're allowed to have more of these verboten opinions on Twitter without having to, like, worry about getting shot down immediately. I mean, again, I was, like, completely demonetized on Twitter for a while. I was able to get that back thanks to a couple of people who helped. Like, it's been pretty all right for free speech, I would say.
As soon as Twitter opened up, then everybody came through and exposed
If you want to see old Twitter, look at Blue Sky. I don't want to visit from the FBI, thanks.
all of the weaknesses in that ideology, and I think it pretty much destroyed it. So we'll see how things go. Obviously, you know, anything like this doesn't happen overnight, but I've really found it to be incredibly interesting and compelling to watch and experience over the last probably 3 or 4 years. 2 or 3 years, hard really to say. And I'm curious to see where it's going to go. And that's about it, guys. So let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
All right, well that's about it, guys. That's about it. It probably took me like what 40-something minutes to watch an 18.5-minute video. Literal Asmongold strats, dude. Let's go. Your future husband has spoken. Husband. Oh, the pendulum always swings when you push too far towards one direction. Absolutely, absolutely. A usual react to any 3 times watch length. I feel like that's if you can like double or triple the video you're watching time length, that's a good react. If your reaction to a video is anywhere within like you know, plus or minus like 1 to 10 minutes, yep, you probably didn't react enough. Mods, can I post a funny link? I probably won't be able to look at it. You're actually shocked that you found a VTuber has similar views to you? You're tired of being banned or shunned for trying to survive or taking care of others and family. Lost most of your friends and family because of Trump derangement syndrome. You and Smugglana have given you hope for young women in America. Hell yeah. Hell yeah, we're not all brainwashed. we're not all brainwashed. I think I can do a 69-minute react content to anything. Ugh, I don't know about that, man. I don't know about exactly 69 minutes. I think my upper echelon one is probably the longest. That was like what, over an hour. Sad to hear. What? If you don't believe in freedom of speech for people who disagree with you, then you don't believe in freedom of speech. Yes. The only time I think that like the freedom of speech thing wouldn't apply is like when you are actually calling for harm to people, right? Because I think that's not okay. I think you should absolutely have your messages deleted if you are literally calling for harm. A lot of React VTubers on YouTube are pretty moderate. You found Milky Mew, for example. I don't know who that is. Let me say what I have in my titular tabulars here.